come up. No more calls for the next 5-10 minutes, please, dear listeners. Please, we have got our brother, leader Mbandaka, inside the house. And of course, the oracle is here. You can hear her voice. But we haven't had leader Mbandaka. My brother, good afternoon to you.
Tendai Mwari, giving thanks and praise. It's good to be here, Nana Pa Kombrabia.
My brother, it's wonderful to have you. I told the listeners that you would be here with us about 1 o'clock or so within that period of time, as you had other prior engagement.
Yes.
So I did make an apology for you.
And can I just quickly say, we had a ceremony, a community ceremony, to mark the life and the passing of our beloved Brother Gerard Abdullah, who left our earthly company on the 14th of April. Mm-hmm. And we felt it was very important that the community did something to mark his importance to us and the contribution he made to our community when he was here. And he was a regular attendant and marketeer at Auntie Jean's African Cultural Market every third Sunday of the month. And so we decided to incorporate it with the market today. And it was a beautiful ceremony. It went very, very well.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. So that's the only reason why I'm sorry I wasn't able to join you earlier.
That's okay, my brother. You're here. It's important.
Uh-huh.
We are looking at, as you know, in a week time, 24th,
Mm-hmm.
Britain will be voting in the European Union election.
Yes.
Whether or not Britain stay in or out of the Union. Mm-hmm. And we all have our voice and we all have our opinion to where things are at the moment. Mm-hmm. Gosh, how long ago we was in Barbados?
Yes.
And we were a contingent of African in Barbados. One of the biggest contingents of African went to Barbados.
Absolutely.
And we speak of how we feel towards reparation. One of the points I've pointed to our brother Martin, this is one of the most important time for us as African, because a lot of us as African will never see this again in our lifetime. And so this is very important. But yet, here we are today. We can use this as a platform for us who are asking for reparation. And as I said to my brother, if Africans stand up and said, okay, we are now prepared to use this as a demonstration to demonstrate that we will not vote. And I'm sure this will be looked at very importantly. African hasn't voted because we have got a reason for not voting. And so Brother Martin give me his version why he think we should still vote. What say you, my brother?
Well, Tendai Mwari, I never vote in elections. I've never voted in any elections here in the UK or anywhere else for that matter. And that is for this simple reason. And I will never vote. That is for this simple reason. As African people, and that is what we are reduced to a status below second-class citizenship in our existence in this country. Every social indicator shows that we are at a grave disadvantage, whether it be educationally, whether it be economically, whether it be in relation to the criminal justice system, whether it is in terms of health care, social welfare, housing, employment, we are at a grave disadvantage. And that is the case simply because this nation was built on the political, let's start with the invasion, conquest, enslavement, and colonization, and neo-colonialism, which is colonization by stealth. That is what this country has been built on, and this country sustains itself on the continued political oppression, economic exploitation, and social degradation of Africa and African people. To participate in its electoral process, therefore, is to endorse the very system that is designed on sucking our blood. The vampire system that sucks our blood in order to keep itself alive. And so by giving our vote, wherever we vote, whether we vote left, right, center, up, down, in between, we are endorsing a vicious, brutal, fiendish system that destroys, has to reduce Africa and Africans to poverty in order to maintain its opulence. So I cannot vote in such a system. And as far as this referendum, this EU referendum is concerned, I I think it's unfortunate that we haven't had more debates in our community. I think Galaxy Radio has done a good job in trying to air discussions and debates on this matter. There are organizations in our community, including the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement, my organization, I think have a responsibility to bring the people together to debate these issues, and we have not done that, and I think it's unfortunate. But let me just say this very, very quickly. I see my brother is in earnest to respond.
Yes.
And I doubt whether he's going to agree with much of what I have said. But let me just emphasize this. The evidence seems to suggest very clearly that the European Union is a new world order project, meaning it is a project that involves the forces of global white supremacy and European imperialism, the European power elites of the globe, who are striving to establish dominion over this planet at the expense of African life and African resources. That's the EU, which was established by a secret society called the Bilderberg which was established in 1954, but in 1955, the Bilderberg laid out the plan for the establishment of the European Union, which started off as the European Economic Community and then morphed into the European Union. Okay? On the other hand, right, and if you look at the Remain campaign, the Remain side of the debate, this is the entire British establishment. All of the major political parties are pro-Remain. The government, at least half the Conservative Party, but the government itself, the main leading opposition party, which is the Labour Party, the Lib Dems, the SNP, all of the major political parties are pro-Remain. All of the major institutions, economic institutions that advise the government are pro-Remain. The big corporations, the giant corporations are pro-Remain. All of that is part and parcel of the fulfillment of the New World Order project. Now, let's look at the Leave. I can neither vote Remain nor Leave. Look at the Leave side of the debate. Who are the Leave side of the debate? They are led by, not exclusively, but they are led by, primarily by the hard right of British politics.
That's incorrect. I mean, you're saying a lot of things that are factually incorrect, and it's a little bit frustrating. No.
Correct.
Yeah, I will, but you're saying so many things.
Okay.
I just want to make this one point. The Remain camp is mixed of the left and the right. The Leave camp is mixed of the left and the right. So both sides have people, trades unions, Labour people, SDNP, all the political parties of all colours are on both sides of Leave and Remain. Yes, the TUC as well. So it's not
the TUC. Where's the TUC?
The TUC. Some of them are Leave, some of them are Remain.
No, but officially, I'm going to say that.
It depends on the union, because the third biggest union is Leave. Two of the other unions are Remain. Jeremy Corbyn is Remain, but then you have on the other side Labour people who want to leave. So it is mixed on both sides.
So hold on, what did I say that was wrong?
What you're saying now is that the Leave
campaign, what I said that was wrong.
The Leave campaign is made up of the hard right.
No.
The Leave campaign was put together by Labour people.
Let me since we're correcting, since we're correcting misstatements, etc. I did not say the Leave campaign was made up of the right. I said it was led primarily by the hard right. That was what I said. And I said not exclusively. I went as far as saying not exclusively, but it is led primarily by the hard right. I can give you Nigel Farage.
The classic name.
I can give you Liam Fox. I can give you names.
It's a mix of people. I'm not saying...
And had it not been for good old Nigel, there may not have been
Nigel.
Good old Nigel.
Yeah, but
I say that tongue in cheek, you know that, don't you?
Yeah.
There you go.
And
You know I say that tongue in cheek.
It's
You've got
tongue
the
in
Sun
cheek,
newspaper
but,
as well.
Brother Mbandaka, you encourage people like Nigel Farage because you tell black people it's okay not to participate in the country in which they live.
No, that's not Nigel Farage.
You do.
No,
You tell
but
them-
Nigel
you tell them not
Farage,
to
that's
vote.
not Nigel Farage's argument.
you tell
Nigel
them not to vote.
Nigel Farage is saying vote leave.
It's a hardcore. It's a hardcore, and we have to look at it.
Nigel Farage is saying vote
Yes.
leave. I am saying African people, what we ought to be doing is organizing ourselves politically and economically in our own interests, and to challenge the British political establishment on the basis of what we have established for ourselves is in our best political, economic, social, cultural, scientific, spiritual, etc. interests.
What's
And
the
I am
point if
saying
you
to
don't
African
vote?
people, I am saying to African people, it's not a question of don't vote. It is a question of organize, as Papa Garvey said, unite, organize now or perish. And
you don't want to be
decide on
part
what
of the
is
black
in-
political movement.
What political strategy is in terms of how we engage with the British political establishment, what is in our best interest as African people collectively. And if we ever decide to vote, we make that decision collectively, and we decide on the basis of what is in our collective interest, not as individuals.
Okay.
And
If I
we
may, brother,
organize ourselves.
if
Let me
I
just-
may,
one more
if
sentence.
I may.
One more
Okay.
sentence.
Okay.
And
Yes.
we organize ourselves in such a manner that we are able to drive our own advantage. We are in no position, whether the outcome on the 23rd of June,
24th.
whether when we wake up on the 24th,
the result on
when we have the
24th,
results, whether it is remain or leave, and I'll tell you why I'm confident it's going to be remain. Whether it's remain or leave, we as African people are in no position to acquire our own, drive home any advantage that we may have as a result of the outcome, or to protect ourselves from the disadvantages of the outcome because we're simply not organized.
And
Ten
there
down
you,
one.
and there you go, Pa Kombrabia. What I said right at the very beginning, I am not a victim. Okay? Now, see, I respect Brother Leader, and I've got to tell you, I remember meeting him 20 plus years ago, you know? Hey,
I remember it very
dynamic. I respect it, okay? But the philosophy of using the poor me, passive-aggressive approach to achieve political outcomes has proven again and again and again does not work. I repeat, does not work. Okay? Why doesn't it work? Because you're relying upon the most aggressive peoples in the world to like you, to feel sorry for you, to understand that you're not participating because you've been hurt, and you're not going to participate in the game because you've been hurt. It doesn't work that way. Okay. Earlier on, prior to my brother and sister arriving here, I gave examples, and I gave local examples so that people could check it out. Okay, so I always talk about how I came into public life, and I keep repeating it because I've learned it's necessary to keep repeating it because the school was bad for my children. Okay, I had to be a part of the change process. If I took the position that brother leader, note the word brother leader, is taking, okay, what I'd be doing, I'd be sitting to one side on my hands and say, well, I'm not going to get involved in the school's hierarchy because why? Because, you know what? You're not serving my needs. You're not making sure my children are catered for. And do you know why? Why that's an intolerable position? Because the children will blame us for the outcome. We, the parents, we're the ones who are most capable intellectually, forcefully, personality-wise to effect change. Why not, though?
Over the past 5 years.
Ask the children now. Get the children to call up right now.
Yes, you can. Yes, you
May I just
can.
ask
Yes, you
my-
can.
my
No problem.
beloved brother,
Yes, you can.
brother, it's Councillor Martin.
You can
Yes,
call me
yes.
Brother Martin. It's quite
Yeah,
all right.
my beloved brother Martin. Can you just explain for me, because I need to understand exactly what you mean by the poor me, passive, aggressive approach.
Okay.
If you could give me a brief answer.
I'm going to give you a very brief answer.
The poor me, passive,
There we
aggressive
go.
approach.
You have two warriors, okay? A warrior has got experience of losing in the past, in past wars. And the other warrior alongside him is very confident and recalled many successes in past wars. Okay. Now, these two warriors are walking along the same path, and there is water. Okay. There's only one spoon. Okay. Now, the warrior who has experience of losing in the past is actually physically stronger, intellectually more powerful, and is able, in fact, to run and pick up the spoon and feed himself quite well. But he doesn't, or she doesn't. What they do? They walk alongside each other, even though they can walk fast, they walk alongside each other, and watches the aggressive warrior pick up the spoon and feed himself. And he continues to feed himself, and then stops and says, well, okay, I've had 10, you could have one now. And he feeds the stronger warrior. That mentality I violently object to. Because what it does, it creates passivity in the community. Your organisation, after all the many thousands of hours you devoted to it, should be truly massive. It should be far greater than many of the churches and mosques I encounter, which have come here in recent times and have got thousands upon thousands of members, okay? You should be such a powerful voice in the community that, in fact, your voice should be resounding from Scotland to John O'Groats.
To say vote in. I don't know if this answer makes sense.
Why vote in, though? Why vote in? Because, if I may, because within Europe, the change that we've created here in UK has yet to fully affect Europe. Even though the Human Rights Act, European Human Rights Act, is a powerful document which we can use across Europe, there are far too many of our people who've not yet learned how to use the document to our best advantage.
Hang on.
Okay. Go on.
I want you to come in first because I want to come back to Brother Martin on this.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm very glad our brother used the analogy of war. Because as African people, we are known historically for fighting in the wars of one faction of Europeans and the other.
And among ourselves.
And among us.
Well, yes, and among ourselves invariably infiltrated by one side or the other. That's how we end up more often than not fighting among ourselves. History is there to bear witness to that fact. And I am a Garveyite amongst other things.
So am I.
And who?
So am I.
Well, therefore we shouldn't be having this argument.
Exactly
So
the point. You're not a passive leader in that case.
And tell me who did Papa Garvey vote for? Which political party? Which European political party did Papa Garvey vote for?
Let me come back to you.
Hold on.
Come on. Let's come back to you on that point.
Hold on.
Let's come back to you on that point. Let's come back to that point. Let me come back to that point.
We fought in the American War of Revolutionary War.
Brother leader, come on.
1975 to 1775 to 1783. We fought on both sides. And what was the outcome for African people? Continued enslavement. We fought in the Civil War that was supposed to have ended slavery. We fought on both sides of the Civil War. What was the outcome for African people at the end of the Civil War?
Oprah Winfrey.
Reconstruction, which was overturned and replaced with Jim Crow segregation.
So again, Barack Obama.
So here we go then. Here we are.
Brother leader, again, you're making my case for me. You're making my case for me.
You are making my case.
You're making my case for me.
Marcus Messiah Garvey says,
I am a Garveyite.
Hear all, but attend only to that which concerns you.
I'm going to quote from Garvey right
now. I'm going
to quote from Garvey.
But attend only to that which concerns you.
Okay, so I'm going to quote from Garvey.
Brother Martin.
Your allegiance should be to your God, your race, your nation, your country. So, that's the words of the most eminent prophet.
And I will repeat, these are Garvey's words.
That's it.
There is no force like success. And that is why individuals all make effort to surround himself throughout life with the evidence of it. As the individual should do for the entire nation. You see, brother leader.
So how does that prove your point?
Oh, it does.
You mean
because
you have to
your ethos. Let me do it. Let me do it for you. Don't worry. No problem.
Break it down.
Let me break it down for you. If you say to a child, if you say to our people, don't get involved in any processes which you're paying for, you pay VAT up. I repeated what I said earlier on. Value-added tax. You're paying income tax.
Which you are
You're paying
forced to pay
council
for.
tax.
You are misrepresenting my
no,
position.
I am not.
You are dominating the mic at the moment. Only to
Why are
misrepresent
you
my-
in this country?
Brother Martin, you
Why
are
are you in this
dominating-
country?
You are dominating the mic at the moment purely
Why
for the
are you
purpose
why
of
are you in this
misrepresenting
country?
my position.
Okay.
Okay.
But
Because-
why are you in this country now?
Because when you talk about non-engagement, when you talk
Passive
about hold on,
aggressive behavior.
how do you define non-engagement? I'm not. Hold on, that's a rhetorical question. Hold the
Passive
point. No,
aggressive
hold
behavior.
the point. I'm asking. I'm putting a rhetorical question.
Okay.
I'm
You ask
saying.
yourself.
I said, how do you define? How do you define non-engagement? And let me tell you how I interpret your definition of non-engagement. If you are not engaged in European or some kind of white political process,
You sound like Nigel
if you are
Farage.
not
Yes.
involved,
You sound like
if
Nigel
you are
Farage.
not involved with some European
Oh, come on,
political
Brother Leader. You're
party or
better than
political
that.
interest,
Okay.
you are not engaged.
Brother Leader, you're
You-
better than
you're
that.
not
Hello,
engaged
can I
if you
speak?
are
We're
if
gonna
you are
bring you in.
active
We're gonna
in
bring
your
you in. We're gonna
own
bring you in.
community, mobilizing your own people to engage in nation building based
Right.
upon the based upon
Hang
the
on, Brother Martin.
ideas
Hang
and the
on, Brother Martin.
inspiration and the black print of the man who gave us the most powerful philosophy for liberation, the
Okay.
most eminent prophet and
Okay.
king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey, who
He would not approve of
Hang on,
Brother
Brother
passive behavior.
Hang on, Brother
who
Martin.
implored
We're
us to
speaking
build
along-
nation.
No.
I asked you,
Yes.
which political party did Marcus Messiah Garvey vote for?
Okay.
You cannot tell me
Oh,
that
yeah,
he
it's a
voted
long
for
question.
any European
at
political
all.
party because he did not.
Not at
But I
all.
can tell you this,
It's a long
that when he
question.
went back to colonial Jamaica in 1927, that he did not join any political party. He started a political party called the People's Political Party, the first political party that an African had ever started in any part of the Caribbean.
Well, that's not true.
Demonstrating that we must
That's
do
not true.
for ourselves
That's
as
not
African
True.
people.
It's not true.
First
Tell
of all,
them what's not true,
right,
sis?
that's not true.
What's not
because
true?
we've always been involved in politics.
No,
we
no.
might not have labelled
I made
a
a
party.
specific point. If you are going to refute me on the specific point which
The
I made.
specific point
What are you
is
saying
he
not
is
true?
not the first one to started a political party. Politics runs
no,
throughout
in the
Jamaica.
he is the-
He's not the first one in
No,
the
no.
Caribbean
He is
to
the
start
first
a political
African
party.
I said
No,
again.
he's not.
He was the he is the first. Well, you tell me who is then.
Okay.
Because when you
No. So my sister, with you use a word earlier.
Well, let
remember,
him respond to
distorting
you can't.
facts.
This is what you do.
No,
you are
no,
so
no,
typical.
this is what you
no,
do.
let me respond.
My sister,
No,
you are
let me
distorting.
respond.
If you are going to,
If there's distortion, it's
my
with
beloved
you.
sister,
If there's a distortion,
if you
it
are
is with
going
you.
to pick me up on a specific point
If
that I
there
made,
is a distortion,
correct
it's with
the
you.
specific point which I made. Don't make a general sweeping statement in response to condemn a specific point which I made. I'll say it again. Marcus Messiah Garvey started the first
Yes, we've
political
heard
party
you.
in the Caribbean
We've heard
started
you.
by
Of course.
an African.
Of course, of
You
course.
are, if you are refuting that, you tell me who.
He was
who
the
is.
first one. You're right, and the Haitians didn't
Oh,
do
so you
anything.
concede that?
No, I'm not conceding. I was being sarcastic. Let me tell you what I'm hearing, because I'm actually tired of this EU debate where I hear men speaking as if you guys run the world and that we women must sit back passively.
Well, I don't think it's about
You-
women.
No, hold on.
Wait,
Why are
wait,
you?
wait.
Why you
I'm
want
allowed
to?
to talk. I
Yes,
am allowed to
yes.
talk.
Why you want to
So
transform this into a gender
what I'm
debate now?
hearing, because it isn't a
You want
gender
it to be
debate.
a gender? No, you want
Yes,
it.
I
Why
do.
are we
Yes,
talking
I do.
about the
Yes,
European
yes, I do.
referendum? Or are we talking
Yes,
about
I do.
gender?
See, this is what.
Gender
This is
and
exactly what happens.
Yes. We are.
People, men
yes.
stand up throughout this EU debate, and they've been speaking as if they hold the key to everything that's going on in Europe. You are no different to Nigel Farage.
White men.
You are no
White
different.
men.
Black men, because you're doing it, and Councillor Martin's doing it.
No,
You are doing it, and so is Councillor Martin.
Yeah, well,
Right?
I acknowledge
What you're doing-
the dubious compliment, but I
Right.
think it's completely
What-
misplaced. You have
What?
to qualify.
You see, there you go.
No, you can't just make an accusation. Qualify it.
Why
You
don't
can't just
you let
accuse
me
me of
speak?
being like Nigel
Okay.
Farage.
Yes,
Qualify
I'm
it.
about to.
Well,
You
okay,
preach.
go ahead.
You preach.
You have the floor.
You
Right.
preach about not being part of the system. You preach about separation and difference. It's exactly what he does. And whether or not you like it, Councillor Martin hit a key point. He said, for all your talking, your organisation isn't anywhere as big as the churches. In this country, we sit here, more black men marry white women than they do black women. As a black community, we are shrinking. There are 1 million children of mixed race heritage. There's under 500,000 West Indians in this country. It is the Africans coming in that are making up the numbers for the black community. Somalians do not want to associate with some of the things that you are saying. They have built their own communities and they're making colossal inroads. When you keep going along, isolating people and marginalizing them, and then trying to tell people how to live their lives, what you're doing is you're pushing people away. You're not inviting them. You said that I was wrong when I said that Marcus Garvey wasn't the first political leader. If you look at the history of Haiti, that was politics. That was the politics of our people wanting to liberate themselves. That was a political movement.
Point of correction.
Okay? That
Point
was a
of correction.
political movement.
I did not say that Papa Garvey was the first political leader. How could I say that? When he was standing on the shoulders of
you
great
said he was the
ones,
first
I made a specific
political
statement
party,
that
and he
wasn't
started the first
in
political
colonial
party.
Jamaica.
That's what
he
you said.
did not join a political party. He was the first African to found a political
He was
party.
not. Other people did it.
In the Caribbean.
No.
Well, you tell me who did it.
Well,
What
anybody that
you can't
comes
use
together-
Haiti.
What-
What happened in Haiti is that the Africans rose up and overturned the racist enslaving colonial system and established a government of its own. Now we
That's
can draw on
politics.
that. We can
That's
draw on
politics.
that for
And so-
inspiration. But
Brother
if we're
Mbandaka,
talking
that
about
is politics.
if we are talking about an African in the midst of a colonial political configuration,
So what was Haiti?
starting.
So what was Haiti? Brother Mbandaka, what was Haiti? All
Sis,
I'm saying to
I don't
you
know
is...
if you are deliberately or inadvertently distorting and refusing to see the logic in what I'm saying.
I'm not
But I think
distorting anything.
I do,
Okay,
I,
hold
do-
on, Councillor
I do
Martin,
believe
am I
that the logic-
distorting anything?
You can draw
Brother
on
Martin, am I
what do you expect
Right.
Councillor
You're not.
Martin
Am
to
I-
say? You are
am I distorting?
You are debating
Yes,
on
you
the
are,
same
you are
side.
distorting.
So what,
I think
Tell me why I'm
you're
distorting.
distorting. And why you're distorting it is because you stopped Leader Mbandaka in his track. First of all, you said as men and plus women, plus we weren't talking about any form of sex in the discussion, and you draw women into it. So that's a form of distortion.
No, I was talking to both of the brothers because they've been banging on for the last 20 minutes as if there's nobody, as if there's no other dimension.
We're having a debate.
When black, what, between the two of you? When black men,
No.
when you look at black leadership,
At that
it's always
point-
black men
at that point, we're having
telling
a
black
debate between the two
women
of us, yes.
how to live, what they must follow. These debates are always so specific to raise men
but why
because
do you
we live
insist on
in a
collapsing this into a gender debate?
Because we as women, because black women that are
Councillor
listening to
Martin
you,
is entitled to have his opinion.
Nobody's
Whether he's a
saying
man,
otherwise.
as African men, we don't have a right to have a point of view.
that's not what I
So
said.
it's only white men supposed to stand up and express a point of view?
No, that's not
white
what I
men are
said.
on the TV every day expressing points of
And
view.
what have I said?
So we
I
are
said-
on Galaxy Radio, a Fiwi station.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
what-
The de-brainwashing station, sharing our point of view as
Right,
African
and I will
men.
go back to what I
And I
said.
respect my brother's right to
Right.
have his own opinion.
And
Totally
I
disagree
respect
with him,
everybody's
but
right to have
I
their
respect
own
his
opinion.
right to have his own opinion.
I expect-
and I will affirm my right to have my opinion.
And I agree. But whilst the two of you were having your little 20-minute brotherly loving over there, just like on the European side, just like the white debate is run by white men, this black debate is being run by black men. And I want to say as a woman, not about you or Councillor Martin, but about you together, you're talking about an agenda as almost as if you have a right to lay down the law for women. You're doing it when you talk about the black community. You talk about Marcus Garvey. You don't talk about, what about black women that have done things? You talk about not being part of the EU, brother. But let's be honest. You don't raise the children, the women do. You're not the single mother that needs the benefits
I think
that
it
come
would
in.
open-
Sister, you can tell me I don't
Sorry.
raise my children.
No, I
Anybody
didn't
who
say
know
you.
Brother Leader
I didn't
Mbandaka
say you. I'm talking generally. Don't
know my bond with my
don't
children throughout
obfuscate.
this community
Don't
for many, many
obfuscate
years.
what's being
No,
said.
but my
You
sister,
tried
you
it
are
with me.
distorting-
I'm saying to
You've
you,
taken the discussion
I have taken
completely off course.
No, I haven't. What I'm saying
You have
is
taken
that
the
in
discussion
terms of the
completely off
EU,
course.
when you talk about the EU and not being part of it and telling people not to vote, it's not black people that suffer. It is black women with their
Can I just
children,
make one
because
correction?
a
Yes, you
lot
can.
of the rights.
I did not.
A
You're
lot.
still talking. Come on.
Well, I'm a woman,
Well,
so he can talk
no,
over
no,
me.
no, I don't
This is
think so.
patriarchy.
We've
at
I don't
all
work.
think so. I don't
interrupted
think so.
each
I
other.
don't
Don't
think
play
so. I
that
don't think
card.
so. I don't think
We
so.
have
This is
all
patriarchy at
interrupted
work.
each other. You
I don't
interrupted
think so.
me
This is
several
patriarchy at
times.
work.
No. You interrupted
I
me.
always put my hand
No,
up, so
you're
you
playing
know.
the feminist card now. That's what you're doing.
Of
and
course,
you're dealing it from
I'm
the
a black
bottom.
woman.
You're
and I can't
dealing
be-
it from the bottom of the deck.
And I can't be a
You
feminist.
are dealing
I'm a black
the
woman.
feminist card from the bottom of the
and
deck.
being the feminist is
That's what you're
absolutely
doing.
wrong.
Okay, peace. Let's take a call. This need to stop. Caller, you're on the radio. Good afternoon to you.
Yeah, greetings. I just
10-9.
found out it's now turned in.
Ooh, your line sounds very distorted, my brother. Your line is you're in a very bad area. I think you need to give us a call back, my brother, as your line is very distorted. Let's take another call and see what this caller has got to say. Caller, you're on the radio. Good afternoon to you.
Afternoon.
Hi.
Big up the work to tell us the family. Yeah, I just wanted to come in and say that could Sister Oracle let the two Martin and Brother Mbandaka continue their discussion, because it was going somewhere. It was really helping me to see some clarity in a different side, and all of a sudden Sister Oracle is coming in and creating a whole next side argument. But right now, I don't think we don't really need it right now. So I like to hear Sister Oracle's talk, but we haven't got to turn it into a gender thing, because we're dealing with the whole family of us, man and woman and child. So we don't have to be, the women did this, the women. We know what our women done. We know about our great.
My brother, I hear what you're saying, and I understand where you're coming from. The problem is, when you have two men standing up talking about Europe, what they're doing is they're doing it from a particular perspective. And what I'm trying to say, as a woman, I think there's something irresponsible about not looking at the fact that coming out of Europe will have a huge effect, particularly on women. And I have a duty, sitting here as a woman, to say that.
Just women. It's on all of us and our children.
On all of us, but particularly women, because black women are at the bottom of the agenda. So I have to speak for my sisters because I see their pain.
The black woman who is responsible for the black child. Yes, I understand that. But I'm saying it affects us all.
But it affects us more. We're raising children on our own. It's we're catching fire right now as black women. And that's what I want to address when we talk about Europe. That's what I'm here for. But thank you, brother. I appreciate what
Give
you're
thanks,
saying.
my brother.
Because they've broken up the black family. That family has been destroyed. A lot of us is in jail. A lot of us is in madhouses. A lot of us have been taken out of the family. They've even set the benefit system where if you've got a man in the house, they ain't going to help you. So a lot of the females feel, well, it's better if I don't have no man in the house. So the system is designed to smash up the black family. They're aware of this. So that's the piece anyway. And I feel like make the two of them continue, because it was going somewhere. We was getting somewhere with it.
No,
all right?
whatever.
Okay, my brother, thank you. Give thanks. The Vibration in Galaxy, we take your call. Those of you who have just joined us for the first time, haven't got the number, let me read the number out. It's this one, in both sides, whether it's on television, whether it's on radio, it's always going to be a heated debate. And so every single one of us inside here, our backs are broad, and I'm sure we ain't going to have any punch-up. I'm going to be the referee anyway. Let's take this call. Caller, you're on the radio. Good afternoon to you.
Yes, I rise up. Aye.
Hi.
Just like the Virgin, I don't know why this is now turned into some gender discussion, because we're dwelling together here. So let's not separate and get into this divide and rule thing.
We're going to make sure that doesn't happen, my brother.
Yeah, but please, Virgin, because we sit on here listening, it's coming like, where are you? In the Houses of Parliament, where these little children are talking about people's lives and just talking rubbish every day in some debacle, while we stand aside doing nothing. Marcus Garvey, yesterday, today, and forever. We know why you're about no Labour and no Conservative, because they're not doing nothing for no African people from any African diaspora. So I don't know them people I keep up about.
Okay, my brother, you have made your point. Thank you for your opinion.
Just keep him on the line, because, but of course, as I said earlier on in respect of Mbandaka, that what I violently object to is the passive-aggressive approach to gaining and making our points. And it's quite obvious that if we stand by and watch other people will fill our vacuums. So if the government invests specific money in, say, Southwark Council for a specific purpose, it's that money is earmarked for us. Okay, but it's us to be organised so that we can fully exploit the financial opportunity that's been afforded to us. The approach that Brother Leader would take would be to disempower us, which is why his own organisation hasn't grown at the rate which I expected, and more importantly, why the vast majority of our people do not follow that line.
My brother, I'm going to come back at you on that. Let me take this call first. Caller on the radio. Good afternoon to you.
Yes, good afternoon to the panel.
Yes, my brother.
Tendai Mwari.
Yes, I tell you what, I think I see where my Empress is coming from, talking about women, because really, when we look, especially, well, she might be concentrating on black women, but women generally, actually, they've been dominated. But they have, in the European Union, where it's happened that they will be speaking for women and all this sort of thing there. But what I want to bring, I am not really interested in or leave. But if I have to vote, I will vote for for them to remain. Why? I want the British to realize, because they don't want people to make a decision for them and so on. But they've been going all over the world telling us how to accept homosexuality and all these sort of things in Africa. Now they have to know how it feels like when somebody dictates to them what to do. This is what they're trying to avoid. And two, when you look at the bedroom tax which the Conservatives introduced, if it's not for the European Union, it's happened that we will be in a serious problem now on tour. But because these people involved, so this is the same people like this racist Farage and all this sort of thing, they're trying to avoid this sort of thing. This is it. And if I have to look again, I will be voting in time to come when we say we join together, we African people, for like Britain to be kicked out of the Commonwealth, because it's happened that there is nothing common with we and Britain in this world of Africa. So this is my own input to that.
My brother, thank you very much. Give thanks for the call. Brother Martin, a question I want to ask you, my brother. Mm-hmm. Are you saying an organization who speak on behalf of the betterment of African people, predominantly African, it is wrong for them to actually move forward? Is that what you're saying?
Ooh, I don't think I said that.
Well, you said because our brother leader Mbandaka organization has moved forward. Is it in fact that?
Indeed. It's quite obvious to me. You see, I can take a slightly neutral position.
Yes.
Okay? And my position is this. I have to listen to what our people are saying to me, okay, and understand what their priorities are.
I'm coming to you, caller.
And in listening to their priorities, okay,
yes,
whilst they are concerned about the issues which Brother Mbandaka has raised, that is that we need a strong economic base. Our countries need to have a greater level of economic independence from the dependency created by European powers. Most certainly true. How we get there is the question, you see. So for us here in the UK,
yes,
our primary objective should be, I suggest, to create and control capital. Because money is what speaks in both Britain and across Europe. If he said to me, look, Brother Martin, I'm going to devote myself to ensuring that our people have great influence through the use of capital. We're going to create businesses. We're going to ensure our children, the majority of our children, have the best possible education. We're going to ensure that we set up health services that are extremely powerful and serve the needs of our people. We're going to establish offices in every African country and the Caribbean. We're going to make sure we capture the imagination of both the young and old of our people, both here in the UK and beyond. Now, I'm for
Let me take this call here because I'm going to come back to you. Caller, you're on the radio.
I'm going to hold him to that very point.
Yes, Brother Martin, we're going to come back to you. Caller, you're on the radio. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to the lady and the gentleman. This is the first time really in a few weeks that I've heard anybody talk about the New World Order, regarding this issue. And, personally, just to get to the point, I would vote leave, but only because, I want to disrupt that system. I don't want to support more integration. Whether I know about all the other effects of, good and bad, whether we leave or remain. But I think in the long term, we really need to face that fact that really this system is just trying to, bring every country together, and that's where we're going to be losing power. When I say we, I mean not just black people, but also, you know, all the people that are really poor and don't have, you know, the same advantages as the rich and the elites. And I think that's really where politics has been insulating the rich people from the poor people. So even though I appreciate that Councillor Martin has had, you know, lots of successes locally, but when you're talking about global change, that's a different ballgame. You know, to bring about global change, you need a lot more than just voting.
Okay, my brother, my sister, I want to come in here. My sister, you come in.
Thank you so much for your call, and let me tell you for why. You say that you want to vote leave so that we don't come together as a global state. The big threat is something called the Transatlantic Investment Partnership. If we leave Europe, it means that this government, who's already taken away employment rights in this country with zero hours contracts, has already said that you can't go to a tribunal unless you've been at the job for 2 years and then you need £2,000. They are going to link up with America, who doesn't have any employment rights, who don't even have unions in their country. They're discouraged. And under this agreement, they are going to allow corporations to sue the government if they don't like the policies of the government and it's affecting their business. So let me give you a working example. The government of Uruguay were taken to court by Philip Morris under the Transatlantic Investment Partnership because the government of Uruguay wanted to stop the people in their country smoking.
I'm familiar with that.
Oh, good. So if you vote out from Europe, what will happen is that partnership agreement will be signed by the British government because, as you've said, rich people insulate themselves. At the moment, that agreement is stalled in Europe because France has said no to it and Germany has said no to it. So Boris would love it if we came out of Europe because we wouldn't just have Uber, we'd have all his cronies from the United States doing things in this country.
My brother, thank you for the call. Give thanks. No more calls after this one, please, dear listeners. No more calls. Thank you. Let me take this last call for this afternoon, this session. And no, it's pretty short. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the radio.
Good afternoon, Nana Pa Kombrabia.
Yes, my brother.
Just briefly, I understand where the sister is coming from, but please, my sister, do not make it a black man, black woman argument. You and I are both oppressed. You know, I have a wife, I have a daughter. We are all oppressed. You don't have to put it on the fact that black women are more oppressed than black men. If you look at even the stats, there are more black men in prison than black women. There are more black boys on children's school than black girls. So please, don't make it do not use that divide and rule tactic. I understand where you're coming from, believe me, but we are all oppressed. You and I are in the same boat. Whether you're a black woman and I'm a black man, we don't have different, nuances. Our nuances are all the same under this system of white nationalism. And the last thing, why we should leave Europe. For me as African, it has nothing to do with this. But my main argument for leaving Europe is at this moment, as I'm speaking to you right now, let me give you 2 examples. One, the European Union, Britain involved, is pressurizing African governments, Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Zimbabwe, South Africa, etc., to sign the European so-called partnership agreement. This will allow European producers of goods and services to throw their goods, their subsidized goods, I may add, cheaply on African producers of goods and services. We've seen this already in Ghana, whereby Ghanaian farmers, our black brothers and sisters in Ghana, who are farmers, are now being priced out of growing rice, of growing maize, of growing flour, etc., because of cheap European subsidized goods forced on them by the European Union via the aid money that they give quote-unquote African countries. 2, right, under the European Minerals Commission Act, I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but under the European Union, they've signed the Minerals Commission Act with countries like Ghana, right, whereby the European Union extracts 80% of Ghana's gold, and that sits in the vaults in London, Paris, and Brussels. Now, if this is the European Union, you in the studio and at home want to vote for, to use it to curtail your African brothers and sisters in the Caribbean and in Africa, then fine, go ahead with it. Go ahead and let European policies destroy our people in the Caribbean and Africa. Because at this moment in time, even I, as a businessman, I can't trade. I do a lot in what they call it, agricultural goods, agribusiness. I, as an African producer, cannot sell my goods in the European Union because of the stringent measures that the European Union has put on agribusinesses like myself, right, and others.
Brother Kwame, you know, you've got so much. I've got one sister that's on the line. I want to bring her on because my arm has just been twisted. Thank you for the points you've made, my brother. You've made this discussion much more wider. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you.
Give thanks. Oh, dear listeners, you know, we promised that we weren't going to take any calls, but I need to have this sister voice on the radio because we've been dominated by the brothers, and so let me hear the sister. Sis, good afternoon.
Oh, greetings.
How are you?
It's Sister C here. I'd like to rise up everyone in the studio.
Wonderful to hear you, my sister.
Greetings, Sister C.
Right, okay. I know I haven't got long, so I'm going to put straight into it.
Yes.
And to say, put my cards on the table, I don't usually vote, but I think this is a situation that concerns all of us. We all live in Europe. We all live in the UK. And whatever the outcome is going to affect us all. So we can't bury our heads in the sand and say, la, 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 nothing's going to happen. It's going to affect us.
Sister C, have you met the Oracle?
Sorry?
Have you met the Oracle? The sister sitting down beside me, just as how you used to sit beside me. Have you met her? I think she have just ring you and tell you to ring us, you know. I think she have just rang you.
Okay.
Anyway, it's good to hear from you, my sister. Have you finished making your point?
No, I haven't.
Go ahead, finish.
Okay, right. Look, the whole of the UK's relationship with the EU, from its foundation, it's been marred by misinformation and lack of transparency. Mm-hmm. Let's go back to 1973, even though the whole European project goes back to 1920s. I haven't got much time to go into it. Now, Edward Heath, the Prime Minister in 1973, took the UK into the EU, and he was going around assuring people that it was only about trade. It was a trade alliance. And then later, he admitted that he knew that it was not the whole truth, because they were edging furthermore towards this thing called political unification. Now, David Cameron this year went around touring all the EU capitals last year, trying to negotiate reforms which he said were essential, to remaining in the UK, in the EU. The reforms that he presented were rubbish, lacked focus, everything else. He failed, basically. And now the government's Remain campaign has since then, it's been kind of characterized by a notable lack of facts, and speculation and scaremongering, So they're descending into tactics now that look like, at the end of the day, they probably will win because of electoral vote rigging. Now, my major concern is for the young people, the future of our young people who are going to be living here and who are more likely to be voting to stay within the EU, So many of them, they're listening to government propaganda saying that their future jobs depend on being in the EU. But to me, this is not about the economy. It's about politics. It's a political argument because the EU is a totalitarian state. And what they want is furthering that New World Order agenda. So we're walking straight into it, So who says that you have to be a member of the EU to trade within it? There are lots of examples of countries outside of the EU who are trading successfully. You know what? I'm going to leave it there, but I think people need to do their research.
My sister, point have been made and it's very clear. Thank you kindly. Good to hear from you.
There are risks in voting either way. Listen to one expert about Remain, listen to one expert about leaving, but at the end of the day, if we don't want to go down the road of totalitarian state, a unified currency, a single market, and all that it entails, and a world army, totalitarianism, then we got to vote to get out.
Thank you, sis. Give thanks. No more calls. Brother Martin, before you come in here, I want to just switch the conversation slightly because our leader Mbandaka have got something important, and I want to give him the opportunity. Then, if there's any chance, we can come back. My brother, you're here for a particular reason,
Yes.
not to discuss where we are now, but you're here for another reason. Yeah. What is it all about, please?
And I was happy to share my view, even though I wasn't, allowed to complete my statements I was happy to share. I'm aware
Guess what?
Councillor Martin has been here for a couple of hours.
You have got tomorrow evening.
Okay.
Would you like to invite him back in tomorrow evening?
No, because we're dealing with. I would
You've
love to-
already have
Yeah.
script out. Okay.
Otherwise, I would have been happy to have him and continue the debate. I think
Discussion.
Sister C made some important points.
Yes.
But I would like to also exhort our listeners to understand that both sides have been, making things up. Misleading the public. Both sides have been misleading the public.
Yes.
I also want to make it clear that I did not tell anyone not to vote, and I'm saying this to my beloved sister, that I did not tell anyone not to vote. What I did was I explained why I don't vote
Yes.
and why I would not participate in the referendum, because I am clear that I am endorsing a system of oppression and exploitation of our people in order to survive itself. And whether it's the European Union, whether it's in the context of the European Union or the context of a so-called independent Britain, the policy towards African people is the same. And that is why I drew on the examples of the American Revolution, the Civil War, etc., etc. Okay? So please, brothers and sisters, I try to explain why I think that we are in a vain political exercise by voting one way or another, because we are not organized as a people. And we're going to talk about the Interim National African People's Parliament, the vision and mission of which encapsulates much of what Councillor Martin is advocating we should be doing as a people. And I don't know how much of his political activity is engaged purely within the African community, seeking to organize African people for political and economic empowerment, so that we can, as he recommends, so that we can amass the capital in order to build the infrastructure to underpin a way of life where we are
representative. Representation.
We have national representation, and where we can build the institutions that can address our own needs. But let me just say one other thing before I go back into into INAP and our General People's Assembly coming up this Saturday. Let me also say that Sister C used the term "burying our heads in the sand." To say that we are not voting in the elections does not mean that we are not politically active and politically engaged. What worries me about Brother Martin's use of the term passive-aggressive approach, poor me, passive-aggressive approach, is if you take that analysis to its logical conclusion, it is implying that if you're not engaged directly in the British political system, which is a fraud, we have a party in government that was elected by 36% of the electorate. 36%.
How many people elected you?
If this was...
How many people elected you?
No, we're talking about the government of our country. I'm not running a country. Come on. No, I'm running I am the spiritual leader of an organization. I'm endorsed by the membership of that organization.
Let's not take it there, Brother Martin.
I'm sorry. That's a very substandard point.
Yes,
am I the Prime Minister of Britain?
Not at all.
No. Hold on. Let me try and understand the logic here.
Make this statement without challenge.
Let me try to understand the logic here.
Brother Martin, you're not a member of Britain. You're not a member of that party either.
I'm surprised at that. I'm surprised at that comment. Because we're talking about the prime. We're talking about the government. We're talking about
not yet.
You know, the last couple of times he spoke, I didn't interrupt him. I was quiet for about half an hour. Okay. I'm saying, am I the Prime Minister of Britain?
No, you're not.
I am endorsed by the membership of the Alkebu-Lan revivalist movement as its spiritual leader. I'm also valued by other organizations, groups, and individuals within my community. That's where I get my endorsement. That's where I get my mandate as a political activist, an African-centered, nationalist, pan-Africanist political activist. Okay? No. You see, this is what I'm saying. I can't understand that logic.
I'm listening.
That does not value anything that's not endorsed by some European institution. And I think that's very, very poor. And if I had time, I would read an excerpt from Papa Garvey's book, the message to the people, right? Where Papa Garvey puts us straight on this issue, but time doesn't allow. So let me just press on. We are engaged, the Alkebu-Lan Revivalist Movement and others are engaged in a program called the Interim National African People's Parliament, where we are seeking simply to organize African people domiciled in the UK as a nation of people with one representative voice. The most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey, says to us, no race is free unless it has a nation of its own system of government, and its own order of society. So in essence, INAP, the Interim National African People's Parliament, is about African people organizing and establishing our own system of self-governance and our own order of society. I'll give way, my sister, even though this is supposed to be my platform for a few minutes.
Is the idea so that all black people come together under this parliament to section off a part of the UK? Where's it going, I think, is what I want to know. What's the agenda of the parliament?
The vision is that we organize ourselves as African people around nation-building principles. So we have a system of self-governance. We have African people whom we mandate, whom we pay a wage to function in a council of leadership, a council of executives who are engaged in pooling resources within African community and organizing the building of African institutions, engaging the people who mandated them to do the necessary work to build these institutions. That is what this vision is about. It's what we see other people in other communities doing. So if you go into the Jewish community, you'll see that the Jewish community has its own structure, its own political structures. It has its own economic structures and economic programs. It has its own institutions that is underpinned by its own political structure and its own economic program. If you go in the Chinese community, you'll see the same. You go into the Indian community, you'll see the same. You go in the Arab communities, you'll see the same. And we're saying that we are at the bottom of the economic pile. We are at the bottom of the social pile. We are at the bottom of the political agenda, simply because we are not organized on those levels amongst and within ourselves. That is our problem presently. So the vision of the Interim National African People's Parliament is about organizing our people for nation building.
So would that be things like schools, hospitals? What sort? I'm trying to understand the sorts of things that you are going to build.
Well, Tendai Mari, in a nutshell, yes. The short answer to the question is yes. We know that logistically this has its challenges, but you know, as our ancestors say, to count sand, you start from where you stand. You don't concern yourself with the last grain that's at the pinnacle of the mountain of sand. You start with the first grain at your feet. And that first grain is those of us who can see the vision, getting our heads together, mobilizing the people as best we can, and begin to put those structures into place. The kind of politics that Councillor Martin is promoting and purporting is the kind of politics that we have been engaged in this society as long as we've been here. Where is the power for African people? Where is the power that we have amassed as African people as a result of playing that political game? We have none. Show us the power that we have. Show us the national representative voice. Show us the infrastructure that we have that is specifically designed to promote African interests that we control. Show us that. It doesn't exist. Tendai Mwari.
What a leader.
And I need to give the details and the information.
And again, I'm going to keep reciting the term brother leader. Now, of course, brother leader is well aware that those of us in politics and those of us in social circles work hand in hand. Okay, and what is supposed to happen, and it's the case in all communities, that is, you have organizations which are either economic-based, academic-based, scientific, and so on. Okay, and they're all supposed to work in conjunction to support and ensure political influence.
I totally agree with you.
Right. Now, so I know we are both on the same page. It's the narrative which is different, okay? And that is, for me, frustrating because it muddies the water as to what strategically our people need to do out there in the ballot box. Should they participate in the political process or not? When a man says to me, forgive me, when a woman says to me, "Me nah vote," I look at them, I smile and say, you no matter, and I walk on quickly.
But he's got a right to say
no,
that.
It's true. And I said, you no matter. Hold on a moment.
But
I ignore them.
But isn't
I
that
repeat,
part
I
of
ignore them.
democracy? Isn't that one of the principles of democracy that
It's all
people,
about-
you vote where you want to vote?
Absolutely.
And one of the legitimate...
You ignore them.
Democratic...
They don't matter anymore.
Hold on. A legitimate saying...
They don't matter anymore.
No, hold on.
We matter.
Saying
we matter.
I will not vote.
Martin.
Saying I will not vote because in the circumstances, I do not believe that there is a truly representative body for me is a legitimate political position to take.
One is only created for them.
And so my leadership, the leadership I offer is from an African-centered, nationalist, Pan-Africanist perspective.
So am I. So am I.
That which was laid down for us by the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey.
Brother Coogan, please, I know you're inside the house. Could you please give us at least another 5 minutes, 10 minutes, please?
30 minutes.
Because I want our leader Mbandaka to read that bit from the book from our eminent Marcus Messiah Garvey.
Before you read that bit, brother, because obviously we need to know where it's happening.
Yes, sir, he's going to do that. Yes.
I understand what you want to achieve politically. Meanwhile, I work on the ground with my sisters and we're catching hell. We're catching hell because they're being told, don't get involved, don't do this, don't do that. We're raising children in single households. Then we get callers who say it's because the government says that if a man is in the house, they cut the benefit. Of course they do. Because if there's two of you in the house, why should the government pay for the man to live there for free? And the whole problem is women need to be involved in the political arena because we keep following men, we keep following bad leadership. Yep. I'm not talking about you, brother, so let's be quite clear.
No, I'm not that thin-skinned, my sister, so you
no, but I'm not talking about
One
you.
thing I'm not is thin-skinned.
Yeah, but we have a better relationship than that.
I hope so.
So what I'm saying as a woman, and why I'm talking about it from a woman's point of view, I know a lot of women who don't vote because men tell them not to. And I'm saying as a woman, it's really important to make up your own mind and not be following. And leader, because you say you don't vote, you are telling people not to vote because they follow you. That's why you're called a leader, because they will follow you. Right. And when we do that, I see the poverty and the pain on the ground that it's causing for women. And if women, single mothers, are in poverty and pain, then it means their children are. No, and that hurts me.
I am seeking to inspire our people to engage in something far more powerful than turning up every 4 or 5 years.
But we can do both.
Putting your ex on a ballot on a ballot box.
We can do both.
But brother, we can do both.
Well, those who feel that there is value in that process, go on and do it and enjoy yourself. Have fun. Okay. But we've been doing that ever since we've come in this country.
No, we haven't been. That's the problem.
Well, no, but we have been. We have been voting. We have been turning up and putting our...
No, we don't. We don't vote.
That's
why we have a Muslim mayor.
We have been voting. I don't know why
we don't vote in great numbers.
You all are in denial.
I'm not.
African people have been voting in the electoral systems of this country since we've got here.
We do not vote in great numbers, which is why we had to have Operation Black Vote. Very few black people vote.
Well... The one thing none of you, neither of you, have been able to refute is the fact that this is an oppressive, exploitative, and downgrading society for African people. To say that as a statement of fact, to say that as a statement of...
in that case, then? You're
such a juvenile question. I just can't believe. I'm not even going to dignify with an answer.
That's very negative, Brother Martin.
You're sounding like the Farage and the far right. That's far-right rhetoric.
That's what I mean.
Why are you in this country? Because you critique the country.
That's what I mean.
It's racially oppressive history.
One of the
question, why are you in this country?
My brother, can I just come back on that?
You know what? I will not dignify it with a response.
I agree with what you say. I absolutely agree with what you just said. We live in a racist society, that's true, but we also live in a sexist society. But you and callers tell me I have no right as a woman to turn around and say you men oppress us women. No. And I'm saying, feminist, you wanted to use it as a derogatory term. Bear with me, my brother. I argue
Remember, this
exactly
is supposed
what
to be my
you say.
platform. You know.
Yeah. We're giving you extra time. I agree with you. It
5
is a
minutes.
racist system, and I agree with you that it is a sexist system that oppresses women, which is why I have to
And
speak.
my position,
I have to speak to the feminist perspective.
I heard Nana Pa Kombrabia say earlier on something to the effect that, and I'll put it in my own words. I won't try to remember exactly how he said it, but something to the effect that if we are voting for a country or in a country where we are being oppressed, are we not, in fact, I use the word endorsing our own oppression?
You don't fall.
No,
Come on, brother leader. You know better than that.
Look, if every time I say half of a sentence,
But
I'm going to be
Martin,
interrupted, I will never be able to complete what I'm saying.
But you gotta let him. No, but brother Martin, you gotta let him finish.
In your opinion, you see, because you're such a Democrat, as you call yourself, so you believe in democracy, right? So you should be a champion of freedom of speech. Okay?
Brother leader,
so you may assume that
please
your
don't let
intellectual capacity is
brother leader,
superior to
please don't let
mine,
brother
and
Martin
therefore-
disturb you.
Yeah.
We have got a short time.
And therefore, you have the right to condemn my pronouncements to the dungeon of intellectual standards.
If brother Martin was in Barbados with us, when over 600 of us stood up and voted for all non-African
to come out of the conference,
yeah, you can know exactly where brother Martin would have stood.
Absolutely. No, it's a sign of weakness. It's a sign of weakness in someone's intellectual position or someone's argument when they abandon the issues and start attacking the person. And Councillor Martin, that is his style.
Well,
and
I don't think it's his style. I think it's a part of the political teaching.
Well, he's in the wrong. He's being inspired by the wrong teachings. He needs to now be inspired by some African examples.
Okay, brother Martin, could you please let our brother leader finish? Because our time is running short.
Because the opportunity to come back on some of these points.
As our time is running short, come on.
If he's going to make ridiculous statements like, "Why are you in this country?" it suggests that he's either overlooking 500 years of history.
He's been listening to Nick Griffin.
Right? Or he's in denial.
Nick Griffin.
Or he's in serious denial. Yeah? Tendai Mwari.
My brother,
so
yes.
Let me take this opportunity just to invite brothers and sisters. And brother Councillor Martin, you don't have to be a nationalist Pan-Africanist. You don't have to agree with the views that I espouse, political views that I espouse on Galaxy Radio, to be engaged in the work program of the International African People's Parliament. Let me make that absolutely clear. You don't have to agree with my position on the EU referendum to be involved or to come to this meeting that we're calling on Saturday. We simply want brothers and sisters to turn up to this meeting, and which is
only a pity. It's only a pity it's going to be at that time. It should have been before this European election.
Yeah, we just couldn't organize it before then. In fact, we had a date.
I blame you. Okay.
I stand accused.
Yes.
We had a date prior, but we had to move. We had to move the date because of some logistical issues. So that's unfortunate. Yeah. But it's on Saturday, the 25th of June. It's the General People's Assembly of the International African People's Parliament. Our theme is Ain't No Stopping Us Now. Be part of the INAP, that's International African People's Parliament, manifesto and action plan. And so I'd encourage Brother Martin and our sister Oracle to actually read. If you can come to the meeting, it'd be great. I would love to see you there. Brother Martin has been to one or two of our General People's Assemblies. I thought I'd have seen him more. Unfortunately, I haven't. And I'm surprised from some of his pronouncements today. It's clear he has not read our draft working constitution and our draft working manifesto. I would encourage him to read that, so he will see that we are not passive. What do you call it?
Passive aggressive.
Passive aggressive. Yeah, that we are aggressively engaged, that we are assertive, but we have a clear perspective and a clear mandate
yes,
for pursuing a particular vision, a vision of nation building, organizing our people for self-governance and for social development by and in our own interest. The meeting will be at 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Clapham Methodist Church Hall, Nelson's Row, London SW4 7JR. That's the Clapham Methodist Church Hall, Nelson's Row, London SW4 7JR, 4:30 p.m. until 9:30 p.m. And we are looking, brothers and sisters, to sign up at least 100 people to work towards signing up by at this meeting, signing up 100 people, so we can all work towards signing up 1,000 people by March the 2nd, which is the anniversary of the National Black People's Day of Action, by signing up 1,000 people, and then to work together towards raising £1 million by March the 2nd, 2018, as the beginning of the amassing of the capital that we need to begin to lay the foundation for building that infrastructure that we talk about, the economic infrastructure, for social development, cultural development for our people. Tendai Mwari. And let me just also say that we are in the early stages of organizing a credit union. We'll say more about that when brothers and sisters come to the gathering. Organizing a credit union so that we can begin to pool our capital, our resources for our own capital development that our beloved brother Martin spoke about.
Sounds good to me.
So we ain't just talking, we are engaged in action. Tendai Mwari.
On that note, as our time is running, yes, I just want our brother to just give us that bit.
I'll just read part of it because of time.
Yes.
But Papa Garvin, I'll read it verbatim. I'll read it exactly how it's written. So Papa Garvin in that time used the word Negro to refer to our people. Okay, I'm reading from the Message to the People, the course in African philosophy, which Papa Garvey delivered between 1937 and 1940. And he says on page 101, and we're going about just below halfway down. I'm reading from 101 to a piece of 102. The chapter is the purpose of institutions. Papa Garvey says the Negro should never, let me say the African, should never completely surrender himself to the institutional life of other people. Otherwise, he will not be original, but purely and merely copyist. If this could be appreciated, it shows or reveals the wide fields which have remained untouched for African organization and African activity. It is through the institution of a race that the civilization and culture of a race are built. The Negro should occupy, the African should occupy himself in cultivating his own cultural, his own culture, ultimately achieving his own civilized ends, so that in the comparison of racial achievements, he may be able to stand out distinctly on those achievements on his own account as others may do. Not far to go. To live on the achievements of others is to really admit to the superiority of others and the inferiority of self. As a fact, it is by such comparisons that the African is judged as an inferior being. Nothing that is handed to the African by somebody else should be sufficiently satisfactory to the African. He should seek to surround it with originality and then claim it as his own. Tendai Mwari. So that is what inspires my thinking. That's what inspires my political activity. And I'll say it again. It doesn't matter who we vote for. The policy, we talk about Labour Party and Conservative Party, but they are two wings of the same bird. No. They are operated by the same brain center, and they're going in the same direction. And certainly, their policy towards Africa and African people remains the same. And brothers and sisters, if you study the issue of the EU referendum, you will find that we are voting between the devil and Satan. We're voting between the devil and Satan. Tendai Mwari.
My sister.
I just have a question for Brother Mbandaka, something that's just occurred to me.
We've only got 3 more minutes.
Very quickly. So you believe that? Do you believe that all black people should live in one place and all white people should live in a different place, and the races shouldn't mix? Is that one of your perspectives?
Tendai Mwari, I am convicted by the view that African people have the right to be the masters of our own destiny.
That wasn't the
question.
And
well, it is the answer to your question. It is the answer to your question. That anywhere on the planet that we as African people exist, we must be in control of our own lives. Anywhere you go, anywhere you see Europeans, whether they are here, anywhere in Europe, in the Caribbean, Africa, they are in charge of the space that they occupy. And we as Africans must have a vision of self-empowerment. And the only way we can do that is, as Papa Garvey says, unite and organize, pool our ideas, pool our resources so that we can take control and take command of the space that we own and the spaces that we occupy.
Time, my brother.
Tendai Mwari.
Tendai Mwari. Brother Martin, finally, 2 minutes.
It is difficult to argue with the response to the last answer, because, of course, it is clearly and patently obvious that the reason for the passive-aggressive approach is a belief that, in fact, we don't and cannot control our own destiny. And I believe that's the mindset which we need to alter. But to get there, we're simply using completely different narratives. Okay? And I would argue, of course, that the narrative that I might apply is a narrative that many young people will understand and act upon. I can only refer to actual empirical experiences and where young people, and indeed older persons, have responded to the need for us, one, to be politically active, economically active, and of course, most critically, to ensure that we're able to protect both the young and old in our community from all the aggression that we will receive as a community. But let me just say in closing, and as regards the aim of INAP, which I said right at the very beginning of its creation some years ago, that I absolutely agree with, because you cannot have people in my position, or indeed MPs, where you don't have organised African communities supporting
Absolutely.
them. Yeah?
Absolutely.
And the problem we have right now is not that we don't have the ability, okay? It's simply the will. And if the will requires that, and I've got to say this to Mbandaka, that is that the narrative has got to be truly inclusive. And I now realise, now I've been a politician for a little while now, that our cousins from the continent, okay, have a different narrative. Okay?
Time is coming up, Brother Martin.
And that narrative requires us to be able to adapt our words that they understand and can respond to it. Because ultimately, the INAP must be a council of all African nations, as well as those from the Caribbean and the other parts of the Americas. Okay?
That is certainly
and that's fundamental
and it is
for it to move forward.
It will fuse. That will fuse.
Can I say one more thing? Tendai Mwari, it's a very brave man who would want to directly or indirectly call or imply that Papa Garvey's politics is passive-aggressive. Papa Garvey, who did not engage in European mainstream politics.
Well, Brother Martin used that word before you came in.
I know.
The narrative is different,
but however,
hang on, Brother Martin.
but he's applied it to me.
The narrative is different,
who has made it clear that my agenda is inspired by the vision of Marcus Messiah Garvey.
I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychologist, but Brother Martin is showing passive aggression.
Yeah, well, exactly.
That's it.
But let me go on to say this. That I am in total agreement, and this is where we have congruence between Brother Martin and myself. I'm in total agreement, and well, of course, and
the woman is not allowed to speak.
No, I was referring specifically to Brother Martin's last couple of points. Okay. Let me just say this.
It's important, please, because our time is
I'm in total agreement that we should be organizing and working with each other across ideological and philosophical lines. I totally agree with that. There's no reason why myself and Brother Martin and Sister Oracle should not find a medium by which we work.
Yes, a neutral ground.
Let me just say this in closing. Councillor Martin talks about being inclusive. I want to make it clear to us. Look around the community. Look at this nation, and look at other groups of people in this country, and the basis upon which they engage in exclusive politics. It's from a position of inclusive politics. It is from a position of group
strength.
Which is based on exclusive organization. The Jews organize among themselves exclusively. The Chinese organize among themselves exclusively. The Hindus organize among themselves exclusively. And then they determine from that exclusive process how they're going to engage in the mainstream in their collective interest. That is my issue. And remember what I said was, if we engage in the voting process, just as individuals, to me, it's a waste of time. The only way I would engage is as a collective, as a block, because we have got our heads together, we are organized, and we have decided this process of voting is in our collective interest, and we have the organization and the power to drive home our advantage at the end of this process. And we are a long, long way away from that as a people.
On that note, my brother, thank you very much for joining us. Brother Martin, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure having you. There's a lot more questions I didn't put to you, but you know something? I'll leave it to the viewer and the voters to actually do it.
Vote Remain. Vote Remain in the European Union. It's now collective and long-term interest.
Sis?
Vote INAP.
12 to 3 Thursday.
Vote the Interim National African People's Parliament. Come to our meeting on Saturday and tune into to Africa Speaks with Alkebu-Lan on Galaxy Radio tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Dear listeners,
we'll speak more about this.
Thank you for your participation in the program. Without you, wouldn't be an interactive program. Thank you, Dr. Abu, for your assisting in taking the calls. Dear listeners, Coogan is up next. My brother Coogan, please accept our sincere apology and thank you very much for 20 minutes out of your program. Listeners, we are out of here. Bye-bye.
bathathe izinto ngamawala kanti nabancane mfana abancane bakhala ngaye bathi bathatha kancane bayababambezela yashonela. Everything so stupid, 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 stupid. Hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. I hate it. Say to myself, I want you to yell at my mom. Being a kid is no bowl of cherries, no bed of roses, no piece of cake. When I act like a grown-up, they say I'm precocious. When I act like a kid, they tell me that I'm hopeless. Everything so stupid, 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 stupid. Can't be all stupid. Hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. Hate nobody. Say to myself. Self-important. Want you to yell at my dear. Being a kid is no laughing matter, no silver platter, no yellow brick road. Say what I think, that's a kid, you're too young. And then when I'm quiet, that's a cat, but you're tongue. Everything so stupid, 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 stupid. Hate it, hate it, hate it, hate it. I hate it. Maybe if I say to myself, I wanted to yell at my kids. Being a grown-up is no spring picking, no day at the beach, no easy street. Even if you're making me a favorite treat, you can make your kid to lunch, but you can't make him eat. Everything so stupid, 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 stupid. Can't be all stupid. Hate it, hate it, hate it, hate. Hate nobody. Say. Self-important. Self. I wanted to yell at them. Sisters Kangin, Tina Matuta, Sisters Kangin. Sisters Kangin, Tina Matuta, Sisters Kangin.